Welcome back, God-fearing men. I am excited for this episode. I've been working on this one for months. This is a... Welcome back, God-fearing men. I am excited for this episode. I have been working on this one for months. I've been working on a document I'll share with you here in this episode called A Decision-Making Framework for Elders. And I've been working on this for so long because I feel like decision-making, like making good, fruitful decisions, is the foundation of what it practically looks like to father well, to elder well, to lead well in our homes, in our cities, and eventually in the kingdom one day. I think that it all comes down to how do we make good decisions. Now, there's a lot more to it than that, but let me give you a couple examples here. What I mean, I've been wrestling with a few decisions myself over the past few months and weeks. One of the big ones is should I buy an investment property or not? I've got a lot of thoughts around this. I don't currently own any investment properties other than our home, and I'm hearing there's wisdom in diversifying, and I'm hearing that there's wisdom in things that we can gain from experiences and skills that we can acquire by owning property. My son really wants to work on a property. He does a couple days a week. He works with a friend of ours doing construction, home remodeling. And so he loves that type of stuff. This could be a good income for him. I think it would be good for me to learn about property management and how to make another property fruitful, and not just for our family, but also for whatever family is living in it. And maybe even financially, it could be a good idea to diversify and do some other things. But I'm also torn because no matter how I do the math, I can't make this thing work financially compared to other things that we're investing into financially. I mean, just the S&P 500 index fund has been, will average around 14-ish percent, 12%, depending on the year, but overall around 13 to 16%. And the best I can make this property do is about 8 to 9%. So which is better? Like, how should I invest our family's money and time resources? Is it better to say I'm going to make this investment because I'm acquiring skills and that's going to be fruitful, or purely financial? Be like, no, it'd be better to just leave it in the stock market and make maybe twice as much from the cash there as I would if it was invested into dirt. I don't know, but there also had in the back of my mind this like multi-generational type of vision. Like, I think it would be awesome if my kids decided to like live nearby, and especially if whatever kid gets married and stuff first, like this could be a good starter home for them, and to be able to provide that to help them or any other of my kids that need it. And selfishly, I'd have grandkids down the street. Like, that would be fun for me anyway. I don't know what the parents would think, but I would enjoy it. So I'm torn. How do I make a decision like that? Another one we're facing is with our family's time. We're a family of 9. My wife and I had 7 kids in 8 years somehow, which has been awesome. It's been a blessing. And when you have a family of 9, there's a lot of demands on your time. There's a lot of things that different people want to do, want to invest time into, want to, whether it's that sport or that relationship or that birthday party or that, event, youth group event or whatever. There's so much going on, and we literally just can't do everything. It's impossible for us to do everything that's in front of us and think that we're going to be fruitful and multiply in all of it, And so we have to make some choices, and they're hard choices. Like, what good things do we say no to, and why? And how do we make time to prioritize our own family relationships so we're not just defaulting to spending all our time in other relationships? How do we protect that, and what does that look like for our family to do that? And so it's been a struggle. Not all of our relationships are equally as fruitful. They're not all training us and developing us equally as others. So does that mean we should say no to some of those other relationships? It kind of feels snobby to be like, yeah, you're not good enough for us. Is that what we're saying? I hope not. But there's a lot of tension there because we can't do everything. We have to say no to something. So what is our filter? What's our framework for how we make that decision? Another one is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. There's a tournament coming up I really want to be in. And my kids are competing, but I was in the ER a few months ago with a shoulder injury unrelated to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And the doctor's like, no, don't do it. And I'm kind of like, yeah, but my shoulder's feeling okay. I think I might be able to, And so do I go and teach my kids, like, sometimes you push through the pain and you do hard things anyway? Or do I teach them, you know what, it's a better idea to listen to the wisdom of others, Which way do I go? I don't know. There's not an obvious answer for these, but what they do all have in common is that they all have long-term consequences. And what it really comes down to for me, the bigger challenge, if I'm going to summarize it all, is that most of us have never been taught how to think about decisions. We've only been taught how to make them. How to think about them, I think, will fundamentally lead you to making better decisions. Currently, most of us, we make these types of decisions on instinct or on emotion or what someone else really wants. We'll be passive in some of these and let someone else make the decision for us, even if we don't think is really the best or the wisest choice. Sometimes it's just whatever is most practical right now, whatever just reduces the pain as quickly as possible and gets us back to equilibrium. Like, these are the security, the comfort. These types of filters are often the ones we're using when we're trying to make decisions. And that doesn't necessarily mean we're getting to the best decisions and the best outcomes for them. I'm convinced that as God-fearing men, there's a completely different operating system available for us to use. There's a different lens that we can put on to filter through these decisions and look at how do we make these, not just in light of like maybe what's easiest or most practical now, but these are decisions that will train us. These decisions, the outcome isn't the only thing that's happening here. It's the process of wrestling through the decision, trying to find the deeper wisdom and living into that. That's what this framework, I hope, will do for us. That's what we need as men, because decisions aren't, as I said, they're not just about getting to a conclusion. They're not just a barrier to overcome. I think the process matters. So take any decision maybe that you're facing right now. Maybe you have a financial thing that you're working through, or a parenting moment, or maybe you got something in your marriage you're working through, or you're at a crossroads with your career. I want you to, while you're listening to this, stop and think, how am I approaching it? I want you to be self-aware, be like, okay, what is the rubric? What is the framework I'm using to make this decision? Is it a passive one? Is it a get out of the pain as fast as possible filter? Maybe it's a I'm following the advice of someone I trust, even though I don't really agree with it, or whatever. Like, what's the framework? Most of us as men, we run decisions through a filter that I think sounds like this. At least this is the one I was using for most of my life. It's like, well, what's just best for me and my family? Or what do I want to do with just my desire? What do I want right now with my time, with my money? Sometimes we intellectualize it. We say, what's the smartest choice right now? And, or what gives me the best outcome in the near future right now? Right? So I don't think there's anything wrong with these types of instincts and these types of way of tackling decisions and choices in front of us. But I do think that they're incomplete. I think they treat decisions as problems to be solved instead of treating them as training for something more significant that's coming later when we are ruling and reigning with him in the kingdom, as we've talked about many times. So when I think about being an aspiring elder, remember when I use the word elder, I'm not just talking about the old guy who passes the offering plates at church, and I'm not talking about the Mormon missionary. I'm talking about the man who is deliberately trying to cultivate this kind of character that qualifies him for increasing responsibility, both right now as well as in the kingdom to come. And that type of person, that elder, asks fundamentally different questions. Instead of asking what's best for me and my family, instead he asks, how does this decision align with seeking the kingdom, as Matthew 6:33 says? And how does it align with my role as a father? In Matthew 6:33, Jesus says our relationship to the kingdom is to seek it. What I hear a lot today is, well, we need to build it. We need to maintain it, or we need to grow it, or something like that. Like we're trying to do something, but Jesus says that our relationship with the kingdom is to seek it. Now that assumes it can be found. So what I'm doing is looking for, where do I see glimpses of the kingdom here around me, and how do I join what God is already doing, what he's already at work doing in the lives of these people, or through this organization, or in this city, or this place, or whatever the case might be, right? So instead of just what's best for my family, we're asking, and maybe what's best for me, although that is a good question, we're leveling it up a little bit, and we're asking, am I seeking the kingdom here? And do I see the Lord at work, and how do I join him in that? Or how does this impact my role as a father? Also, maybe, for example, instead of asking, what do I want to do with my time and my money? Like, what do I want? We instead ask, how can I manage what God has entrusted to me so that it produces fruit? Management of what's been entrusted to us being the key factor, more than my own desire. Or instead of asking, what's the smartest choice, and just intellectualizing this, we ask, where is the Spirit directing me? Even if it doesn't make intellectual sense, even if it's not smart, where is he leading me? And he might be leading me into something difficult on purpose. There's countless times, not countless, you can probably count them, but there's a lot of times in the Bible where God led someone to be tempted. I'm thinking specifically of Abraham, where God says, God tested Abraham and asked him to give up his son, his only son, Isaac, on the altar. It was a test. That was a really big test. When Jesus, how does he start off his ministry? It says he was tested. The Lord tested him and led him into the wilderness to be tested, right? So in our world, we think tests are bad, but in Scripture, tests are an opportunity for growth. They're an opportunity to deepen our beliefs. They're an opportunity to gain new skills. And it's not like a pass-fail thing like we see them today. And so maybe the Lord is testing me and he wants me to grow through this. So it's not just about what is the smartest choice, but it's like, where is the Spirit directing me, even if it doesn't make sense? We ask that type of question. Or instead of what gives me the best outcome now, what is the shortest path to being through this, over with this, to getting something that's agreeable here? Instead, we ask, how does this decision prepare me for greater responsibility in the kingdom to come? What skills am I learning? So I'm thinking about this potential property investment. This is like part of the tension. It's like, okay, from a financial perspective, I don't yet have the skills to make it match what I could otherwise earn invested in other things. But maybe it's a better thing to give up some of the financial earnings I could maybe get elsewhere and invest into the property anyway, because it's how I'm going to get the skill advancement. I'm going to level up in that type of investment instead. And not only for me, but in my kids and in their futures, and maybe even my future relationship with my grandkids. Like, is that something worth investing into? I think so, but is now the time to do it? I don't know. Well, I do know. I did make a decision on here, but we'll get to that. So I think these are maybe some of the same decisions that we're all looking at, but we can bring entirely different frameworks to them and how we solve them. How do we address them? And I think the difference in how we address these decisions and make them really matters, because this progression in Scripture that we've been talking about for a God-fearing man of being a father in his home to then being an elder in his city as preparation for ruling in a kingdom to come, this is how we prepare, or part at least of how we prepare for that. Each phase of being a father in the home, to then essentially a father in the city, to then being a ruler in the kingdom, like each phase qualifies you for the next. And each phase tests whether you can be trusted with more, as we talked about in Luke 19, right? Like when the master comes back, it wasn't like a test like did you pass fail, although there certainly is a rebellious way of making decisions, which one servant did. But these tests were like, will you be fruitful? Will you multiply? Will you rule and reign, as Adam was blessed to do? And then after the flood, Noah was blessed to do. And then Abram and his descendants were blessed to do. Right? This is like an ongoing theme in the Bible, not just like a one-time thing. This is what he wants for his people. And so what does this mean for the decisions we're making today? I think it means everything. The conflict we're having with our teenager, the financial call that we're having to make for our family or for our business, just the conversation with our wife about our priorities, and these aren't just problems to get through. This is an opportunity to multiply the resources that the Lord has given us, to take the talent and the mina that He has entrusted to us and say, look, Master, you entrusted me with 5, here's 5 more. So for me and the decisions that are in front of me, I got to decide now. Is this investment property? It's no longer just a simple ROI calculation, because now the question for me is more about the skills I'm developing. The jiu-jitsu tournament, this is about what my kids learn by watching me push forward and compete despite a doctor recommendation. And what do they learn from that? Well, do they learn that it's sometimes good to push yourself anyway? Or are they going to learn that expert advice and counsel and wisdom from others is optional if it's inconvenient? Right? So which way do I go? What about the question about which relationships we prioritize? I'm viewing this not as a calendar issue, but as a formation issue. Not all of our relationships carry the same weight. Some of them are building a really deep community with us, and some of them are really developing really good character qualities in us, and some we have partnered with really well, and we see that being really fruitful in a lot of different ways, and other relationships are just making us busy. So each one of these decisions is training for future responsibility. And I am looking at that way. I'm trying to look at these as skills I'm trying to learn so that when I'm an older man in the city and I'm guiding some younger families, I can do that with wisdom. I've developed the skills that I'll need when the king asks me, what did he do? He asked me, what did you do with what I gave you? And I'm going to say, I managed them well. My time, my resources for the kingdom to come. And so every decision we make is practice for the next one. And I don't think the king gives cities to people who are just coasting through training. I'm taking it seriously, maybe too seriously. Maybe some people are like, Tim, I think you go a little too far with this. Maybe, I don't know. I think the common man, though, when they look at these challenges, they just solve problems. How do I get to the other side of it? But I think the aspiring elder is thinking, how do I multiply these minas, these talents, what's been entrusted to me? Same situations, same pressures, but just a completely different trajectory on where we land with this thing. So I put together a free guide called the Elders Decision-Making Framework that walks through all of this in detail. And it's I broke it down to 6 questions that I hope you can run any significant decision through and come out at the other side with at least, maybe not the answer, but at least a different way of thinking and framing the decision in front of you. So now you can wrestle with it from a different perspective, from a different angle. And so I've included several real life examples of my own and how I've applied it, including the outcome of these 3 examples that I've given you here. How did I, not saying that the decision at the end was like really like the best decision, but more, however you want to define best, but more that this is the process I went through to get to that decision. And here's how I thought about it. Now, this framework, it's not a formula. It's not like, oh, just do this and you don't have to think about it. You'll just get the right decision. No, it's just a framework for helping you think about it from a different perspective. It's a way of seeing what's actually at stake in these decisions that you're already making. So this free guide is available to anyone who's subscribed to Elder My City via email through the blog, not necessarily through the podcast, unfortunately, but there is a link in the show notes of this episode where you can go sign up and register and subscribe to Elder My City and you'll get email. Basically, I take these podcast episodes, they're turned into blog posts and published there for people who prefer to read instead of listen. And so you'll just get a notification with those in your inbox. No spam. I got nothing to sell you. I'm just trying to help people think like this. And honestly, it's accountability for me to think out loud about it. It's good for me to wrestle with these things. And I find that when I do this verbally out loud for others, it forces me to take more ownership of them and think through them more deeply and to articulate these things, right? So I'm doing it for myself, but I'm inviting anyone who wants to join me in it. So enter your email, use the link down below. In your welcome email, you'll get a link to the guide where you can just download it right away. And if you happen to be new here, every week I'm just wrestling through what it looks like to develop elder-worthy character through the decisions that we're already making in our marriage and with our kids and our business and our finances and our time and our community and our relationships. I'm just trying to be honest with what Scripture says and how we apply it to real life and wrestling through that. So if you're a man who wants to lead a godly life, and you want to be more than like just a quote, good dad, whatever that means, it's like our ceiling for, I just want to be a good dad. I'd love to have you on this journey. I want to be more than a good dad. I want to be a God-fearing man who leads his family well, who leads his community well, who leads his business as well, and who is being qualified for ruling and reigning and leading in a city that's coming. So I'm looking forward to that kingdom. Jesus told us to long for it, to seek it. He said, when he taught us how to pray, he said, our Father who art in heaven. He's like, worship first. And then second, he's like, he wants us to pray for his kingdom to come and his will to be done on earth as it is in heaven. And I am longing for that day. I look forward to that day. I'm preparing for that day when his will is done on earth as it is in heaven. When his kingdom comes, he wants us to long for that. He wants us to train our hearts to long for that. He wants us to pray for that. And so I hope by being a part of what we're doing here at Elder My City, we're getting into some practical training, what's the right word? Outcomes of what it actually looks like to do this today. So wrestle with me. Literally, even I'd love to do it. Come to my jiu-jitsu gym, we'll roll. But metaphorically as well. And looking forward to continuing this journey together. So thank you guys for being a part of it. Subscribe. Use the link down below to get the elder decision-making framework. The subtitle is A Step-by-Step Guide for Godly Leadership. So go check it out. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks. Bye.